Hey, this is Chris Connors. It's Black History Month. And every year, the Big DM, we like to sit down with some people who are real pioneers, trailblazers, not only in their community, but also in the state of South Carolina and today in the entire country as well. We're very honored to have the senior pastor of the Brookland Baptist Church, the Reverend Dr. Charles B. Jackson, Sr. Good day.
Good day. Chris, I am the one who's honored and humbled that you would give me the opportunity to share something of the Brooklyn story as God has given it to us over the past 48 years. Come the first Sunday in February, I will have been at the Brooklyn Church, which happens to be my home church, for 48 years.
And full disclosure, this is my senior pastor as well. So it's an honor to be here with you today, sir. It really is.
Thank you for believing in what we're trying to do for the kingdom of righteousness.
Absolutely. Pastor Jackson, take us back to the beginning. You've done so much for the community and for the city and for the state. But take us back to the beginning. You were called to preach at a very early age.
Chris, so much we have tried to do, but when compared to what all needs to be done, it seems to be so very little. But I began preaching my very first sermon, the third Sunday in February when I was about 9 years old. In March of 1962, at 10 years old, I received my license to preach, ordained at 12. And for some reason, the elders of the church were led to install me as pastor of the church on the first Sunday in February the 7th, 1971.
Pastor?
Pastor at 18 years of age.
And what church was this?
Brookland Baptist Church, which happens to be my home church. And at that time, the church was located at 1032 Monticello Street, was in the neighborhood, the shortest street in all of Lexington County. The miracle of Brooklyn is that God moved us from the shortest street, a 2-block street in Lexington County, to the main thoroughfare serving Lexington County, Highway 378.
Pastor Jackson, how do you get the calling at 9 years old? Was it something on the inside? How did you know?
I would have to tell you what my mother said, because both of my parents, both deceased. My mother passed away when I was 16 years old, and according to their report of my calling, I was disturbing the family at night. In the middle of the night, I was waking up talking about Jesus, right in my sleep, talking about Jesus, and everybody, no one could sleep. And so they didn't want me to continue awakening them. And I just felt that there was some kind of compelling power, force within me, and I didn't understand it myself. And so they talked to the principal of the Lakeview School. At that time, I attended the Lakeview School. He happened to have been a pastor himself, Dr. Miles D. Bogan, who pastored the Trinity Baptist Church in Columbia, where one of the sons of Brooklyn, Dr. Thurman Bowens, now serves as pastor. Okay. But he told my parents about the calling of the boy Samuel, and had them to understand that something is going on, though we may not understand it. Just release him. And of course, then they went and talked to my baptizing pastor, the Reverend T.T. Marsh, and that was met with some resistance as well. But the elders said, well, he did call Samuel at a certain early age, and he told Jeremiah, I called you while you were yet in the womb of your mother, so just give him the opportunity. And so they gave the opportunity to me, so that's how I preached my initial sermon when I was about 10 years old. Crazy, yes, but apparently God, knowing all things in his infinite wisdom, being providential, he saw us today some 48 or 57 years ago now.
Do you recall what that sermon was about?
Daniel in the lion's den. Wow, okay. Now don't ask me what I talked about Daniel in the lion's den, but that was one of my favorite stories. During that time, I had a couple of stories because I love the story about the little boy who gave his lunch bag to Jesus. But I talk about Daniel in the lion's den, and he prayed.
Amazing.
I want to think the subject was why I pray. Now, I don't know if I ever answered the question why I pray, but I want to think that was the sermon when I was about 10 years old.
At that age, how did the congregation receive you as pastor?
Well, there were mixed feelings about it, but there were some persons, of course, just kind of celebrated the fact that he was a boy who had been raised in the church, in the Sunday school, because I was a leader in the Sunday school department. Back during that days, after the Sunday school classes met, everybody came together in the assembly, and someone would make a report on what took place in the class, and so the teacher always gave me the opportunity to do so. And of course, I really enjoyed Easter recitations and Christmas speeches.
And we are in Brooklyn Baptist Church now. Was that original church here? Was it around this area?
No, it's located less than a mile from here in the neighborhood, on Monticello Street, 1032 Monticello Street.
Pastor Jackson, you have accomplished so much in the community over the years that you have been here. Tell us a little bit about the different buildings and the different organizations that you've established since you've been in Brooklyn.
It's very difficult for me to speak of that because I know the real deal. I know the truth. Were it not for God blessing me with persons such as you, Chris, who sincerely believe in the vision that God gives to advance His kingdom, we would not have been able to do that which God has so enabled us to do. I am blessed with some of the best people of the Christian faith that can be found anywhere on the planet.
Believers,
I mean that.
real believers.
I'm sincere about that. All I know is this. I should not have remained in Brooklyn. When I was at Morehouse, the dean would always refer me to vacant pulpits across the land because of the prestige of Morehouse in the early 70s. Mm-hmm. And so whenever church became vacant, I was recommended. And not one time did I accept an invitation to go and preach in a vacant pulpit while I was at Morehouse.
And you were pastor here at Brooklyn.
I was pastoring at that time, traveling every weekend without exception. I did not stay in Atlanta, Georgia, not one single weekend in 3 years. And so the dean became upset with me. Why would you want to return to that little church in West Columbia, South Carolina, which no one knows a thing about, instead of accepting an opportunity to preach to some of the pulpit vicars? I didn't have an answer. Yeah. I think I've come to understand it now as I looked in retrospect. I'm not that smart of a preacher. I don't know much about the will of God as I'm going through. I understand His will far greater when I look in retrospect. Mm-hmm. I just try to walk by faith. And I ask God to give some signs along the way to validate and authenticate the direction in which I'm going. And so that's what He does. So He would always, send certain persons to us whenever there was a need for anything of which I thought the Lord wanted us to be about. He would always touch the heart of somebody and say, join the Brooklyn Church.
Absolutely. Let's fast forward just a little bit. Wife, children, tell us a little bit about family.
I'm blessed with a wife who's been with us for 44 years. In fact, she just wrote a book on pleasures and perils. She always says I get the name mixed up. But after 40 years in marriage, I encourage her to share our story with others. So she and my seminary roommate's wife from Whiteville, North Carolina, Marjorie Flowers, teamed together and they wrote a book entitled Ministry, Marriage, and Friendship. And I have a son, Charles B. Jackson Jr., who pastors the New Lauder Street Baptist Church and also serves in some capacity as the executive pastor of the Brookland Church. I also have a wonderful daughter, Candace Jackson Shiver, who has her own law firm with her husband, who's a CPA, the Shiver Group. And I'm blessed with 5 wonderful grandchildren.
Is there an overall vision now, Pastor Jackson, in 2019? Is there an overall vision that God has given you for Brooklyn?
Yes, sir. Over the years, we have always presented a different theme. And I would make the theme known to the church at the beginning of the year, which sort of brought us together in terms of what we ought to be about in a given year. Mm-hmm. And I've kept the same theme no more than 2 or 3 years. Depending on how I believe God was speaking to us and the assignment that was given to us. However, the assignment God recently gave to us is, in the words of this theme, building the next generation of believers. Building the next generation of believers. So for whatever years remaining in my pastoral ministry, they will be dedicated to building the next generation of believers, because I'm really concerned about our future. One of my favorite passages is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. But I'm strongly convinced that if we don't do something about this downward spiral toward which we're headed, we're not going to have much for which to hope, nor a future to behold. So when I look at my grandchildren, it concerns me greatly about the future that they will inherit. So God has spoken to my spirit, do something about it then. And so we want to build the next generation of believers. In fact, our Christian Learning Center is under construction right now. And we'll have programmatic objectives given, very in a focused way to the next generation and to our youth and our teens.
Pastor Jackson, for I think the first time, you have asked your congregation to fast, the Daniel's fast. First of all, I'm very grateful that you did it. I'm participating in the fast. I've lost 25 pounds.
Wow, man.
25 pounds.
Doing it God's way.
Absolutely. Where did that come from, and why now?
I have been teaching on the 37 miracles of Jesus. The 24th miracle stayed with me after presenting it in Bible study when the Father came to Jesus about his son's illness. And the Father had already spoken to some of the disciples. And the Father came to Jesus, and the disciples asked Jesus, how is it that we who follow you could not heal this boy? Mm-hmm. And Jesus said, some healings and some things can come only by prayer and fasting. Mm-hmm. So it convicted me. After 47 years, I had never led the church in a corporate fast. And because I believe that this final assignment from God is going to be more impactful than anything that God has so enabled and empowered us to do over the years, I said, in order to accomplish this, because let me tell you, the devil does not lack what God has given us, because we're talking about pouring into the souls of people. Mm-hmm. And we're blessed with a credit union, we're blessed with an empowerment center, blessed with a banquet and conference, etc., so on. A major inspiration to my ministry has been Pastor Christy Levy Johnson in the Northeast location. But what God has given us for the final phase of my pastoral ministry, I believe is going to be more impactful for the kingdom of righteousness than anything, because we're going to really, pour ourselves and try to change the hearts of a people. Now, that's major. So because I believe it is more major and it will be more impactful for the kingdom of righteousness than anything, I said, Lord, maybe you have me to teach these miracles so that I can make known to your people that we need to not only pray as we've done in the past, but we need to also fast, because some things can come only by prayer and fasting. Absolutely. And it has been a tremendous blessing to me and numbers of others as well. We're located at 1066 Sunset Boulevard. That's Highway 378. And our worship services are 8:15 and 11 each Sunday morning. Our Bible studies on Wednesdays, 12 and 6 p.m. And I try to teach the Bible studies as well as preach on Sunday mornings.
You do it all. You do it all. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you sitting down talking to us.